Hello and welcome back to the Sketchpad Pod. I'm Alicia and today we are going to be going through my A-level art sketchbooks. So I will go in chronological order. There's 3 sketchbooks to get through, so this could be a long video. I will try and leave in the description timestamps so that you can see which sketchbook I am looking at if you're just interested in looking at the largest sketchbook. So I did get a grade A at A-level, which I was really happy with. I finished my A-levels in 2018, so that gives you a little bit of reference, but I hope that it can give you a good idea of some of the things that you might want to try and experiment with. These are my sketchbooks for both first year and second year. I know different A-levels will have different requirements and different ways that they want you to present them, so this is just the way that my college told me to do it. And also, if you are interested, I am happy to do a GCSE art sketchbook tour as well, so definitely let me know down in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into the video. This is the first sketchbook that I did. It's an A4 one. This is my first year book. It's probably the most formulaic of all of the sketchbooks. So as you can see, I didn't decorate this book. It's just pretty plain and boring. I always like to say that a sign of a good sketchbook is the level of bounce. Can you see that? How full it is? Okay, so we've got a loose print at the front which just spells out my name, Alicia. I think I was made to do that, but it's alright. A lot of this is formulaic, so it's stuff that our teachers asked us or made us do, kind of drawing practice and observational stuff, trying out different techniques just to get us experimenting and just have stuff to fill up our books, and also portfolio pages for university or for Art Foundation if that's what you're applying to. I started by looking at organics and kind of nature, using lots of different drawing techniques. This top one here is really interesting. In the top right hand corner, this one is made with wax paper that you then etch into, and then you spread the ink through the places where you've etched in, and it creates this really interesting sort of mark making textural effect. And then we're coming across the first essay. You do a few essays. I'm not really going to go into them, but they tend to be maybe 800 words, and then as you go on they get longer which is always fun. This is an artist copy of a Van Gogh, so you tend to do more artist copies at the beginning. This is also an artist copy in acrylic, which took a really long time to do, but I think it worked out well. I think it's pretty effective. So this is a carborundum print. It's cardboard with a shiny film layer over the top, which you then cut into and peel back. It's like a cheaper version of an etching, which you might get to do as well, which is on clear acrylic or plastic, or you can do it onto metal. It creates a print, which you will see here on the next page. And now this is the first kind of experimental page. This was an ideas page. I think that the brief we were given was time. This is me just mapping out some ideas, trying out some different textures and things. My A-level teacher was really hot on not overly decorating your page and literally making sure it's just full of artwork and notes. So that would be the main difference from GCSE art, is there's no like fancy titles, no like nice backgrounds. It's very square and linear, but also having layers over the top is always a good thing, makes it look more full. So as you can see here, there's some more layering, more prints going on. And I was starting to become interested in the idea of how things decay over time and playing with how that relates perhaps to how memories decay over time. This page is really fun. Basically, I used salt I think, and sugar to soak up the paint to create these really nice decaying textures. And I also did some similar kind of textural experiments on the other page. It starts to go a bit downhill from here, so I tried to incorporate portraiture into this sort of distortion. I did a full A4 portrait under here of my mum and my aunt, which is okay, but I think I should have just stuck to doing kind of natural decay and like plants. As you can see, I kept going with the portraiture. I do like this one. This one is made out of acrylic and dried eggshells. Also at A-level you still tend to have to do artist studies, like I said, so here's another essay on some of the artists that I researched. So I looked at Andara Sanchez Anguiano, I think is her name. She does really nice like illustrations, which is so interesting because I don't do illustration at all these days. And yeah, this is where it goes from bad to worse. I tried to then like recreate their styles and their colour palettes into some portraits, but I think it just ended up looking kind of gimmicky. This is the last page from this project. This project I got a B for. I did 3 big kind of watercolour and pen drawings, but I just wasn't really happy with it in the end, and I think I've cut up and got rid of my final pieces from that project. This was the next brief. I think this was structures. Lots of stuff all on one page. I was kind of thinking about natural structures. I've got some prints over the top here, also architectural structures. I've started incorporating some of my own photography in this page, some of my own printed photographs, but yeah. Lots of little photographs, and those are great. It's good to have your own primary reference photos. I would definitely recommend going out, getting some of your own shots and putting them in. This is really interesting, like little abstract piece that I just threw in here, but this is what we call a monoprint. So you put the ink underneath, you draw through the top, and then it creates feathered lines on the paper, which is really nice. I'm trying out more experiments, so I took the same flower and recreated it in lots of different ways. And then here I started to abstract the shapes from that flower, so it almost ends up looking like spikes. I made my own kind of like handmade stencil out of cardboard. I would also say if you use anything like tracing paper when you're making stencils or you're making other drawings, just put them in as well, because they can show the process of how you got to something, but also could be art in themselves. This is one of my favourite pieces from this book, which is this bold kind of graphic-y design. I think it's just like pen and watercolour. Really happy with that. This drawing here as well, oh my life, it took so long. It took hours. I think it actually took weeks, you know, of just dotting it, and I really like it on this newspaper. Different kind of tones underneath your work, I think is really good. Then we have, again, another favourite of my pages in here, but I really can't take all the credit because it just shows Georgia O'Keeffe at her finest. I did some artist copies of hers. So I did an artist copy of her Yellow Sweet Peas painting. These were all done with acrylic. My college didn't really let us paint with oil paint, so most of the work that's painting in here will be acrylic or watercolour. And there's also some prints as well. You can see different iterations of prints. So it's all about, majorly just about experimenting, trying out different colours. But this is all quite graphic-y, which is weird because like it's not really what I do now. And then I was experimenting with some more printing, and in here's a little booklet almost of some of the prints that I did. I think it's all the same design, which is great to show how you've like tried out to see what works best. And then this is another artist study page. You might recognise this kind of style, but this is Monet. I really liked his kind of staccato brushstroke effect. And then this is my own kind of inspired painting or recreation. So this took me into another artist study. This was Vieira da Silva, and I think this artist was recommended to me by my tutor. Very abstract, but she actually looked at like buildings and made them into these kind of really blocky shapes. And so then I was wondering how I could use that kind of more painterly effect but translate it into the natural environment. A little watercolour, which is another artist copy. So yeah, just trying to really figure out how I can take it a step further. So these projects were quite long, so you really had to figure out how you could take your work in different directions rather than just sticking to the same thing. This, I was looking at another famous abstract artist, Mondrian. This is then me doing my own version of a kind of abstract style of the natural environment. I really love this piece. It kind of reminds me of stained glass, but underneath it's got all of the sort of like colours from landscapes. And I did do a couple of other progressions from that. This was using more of the lines from rocks, and you may be able to tell from a landscape. And that finishes the end of this first sketchbook. For that last project, I think I did get an A, so I got an A overall for this sketchbook. For the last project, I did 3 big paintings. I did one really big painting just as kind of an experiment, which I'll try and add in somewhere. And then I also did 2 paintings that work together, so that was a diptych. Okay, so this is the main sketchbook, the biggest sketchbook. This took up a lot of second year, but I love the cover, so we actually were allowed to decorate these and personalise these ones, whereas we weren't really doing that with the first sketchbook. So I called this project Distortion. This was my own personal project that I got to choose myself, so there was no kind of brief, as it were, and that tends to happen more as you go along. At A level you're given more free rein, but this is obviously a self-portrait of me distorting my face, and then on the back is a Lucian Freud quote, which I'll read out for you, which says, "The aura given out by a person is as much a part of them as their flesh." I guess I was kind of trying to look at identity and kind of expression through distortion. Let's dive in. The first few pages are kind of made up of work that I had to do in my own time outside of college time, so in summer and stuff, so that I had an idea of what I wanted to do when I came back. And I knew that I wanted to do something to do with portraiture. This is an artist copy of Duarte Victoria's work, and then this is me recreating a self-portrait in my own design. I also went to a Basquiat exhibition at the Barbican, so I put in some of the information from that down below there. This is more artist copies. Again, kind of just looking at portraiture in general. This is an artist copy of Lucian Freud. And then this isn't an exact artist copy, but like a drawing of a painting from Stanley Spencer. And again, this is another artist copy. And then this is, again, lots more artist copies. It's called Golden Misfits by Tomaz. Again, really illustrative, so weird for me. I mean, I like it. And then these are just kind of extra sketches of friends. Again, these are artist copies. I love this artist. This is Nikos Griffitakis. I'm really sorry I butchered that, but I love his work. And I did this drawing, this bottom one, which is a copy of his, colour pencil on tracing paper. And then it's got the like black paper behind it, which worked really well. I couldn't really recreate it since then, but it was great at the time. This is another artist copy. So that was pretty like intense at the beginning, just finding loads and loads of artists. I took basically one image and I then translated that into prints and designs and kind of abstracted it. I also I used thread on here. It's kind of a mixed media collage, painting and thread on this. And then we're getting into my own kind of ideas and work. So on here is a lot of collage and experimentation. I used lots of new kind of techniques. I was using thread and photographs, I was using wire, and so you can see I'm just really playing with the idea of distorting the face and expressions. I got a lot of friends to pose for me. I made this lovely print of my grandma on this page, and I kind of reiterated that image. I also have an old drawing of me, which I'm not sure whether I did during A-level or whether I just kind of added that in to fill up space. But yeah, a lot of this work I stuck in, I think a bit later actually, these ones, because I was also at the time doing portfolio pages, and so a lot of this work went into portfolios for uni. This is a lot of collaging. I really liked how some of these kind of photo collages turned out with different textured papers. I've done this since, and I think it's a really good way of practicing your observational drawing. But I drew a copy of a collage that I did, and I coloured it with colour pencil, so I really like that. These are lots of kind of prints. Again, this probably isn't the exact order that I made everything, but some of this work went into portfolio pages for a while and then I stuck it in. Now this is a slight detour in that some of these drawings are life drawings, and we were quite lucky in that we got to do a couple of life drawing classes. In the evenings we could come if we were interested, so I went to a few of them. Here is where is technically, say, the start of this project, so you can see there's a lot more people. It's not just me, and I'm trying to look at expression. There's a great drawing of Honor at the top of this page. If you don't know, Honor is also on this channel with me. I was just playing with colour. I did a little bit of photo editing here, try and express emotion through colour. I was again trying to play with the kind of colour pencil on tracing paper. I also incorporated more thread drawings. I did this really cute little embroidery of Honor at the bottom, which took me so long. This double page spread is where you can really see that I decided that I wanted to make it self-portraiture, and I have this little fold out flap of some of my reference photographs. Again, always good to have primary photographs, but the good thing about doing it using myself as reference in the end was that I was always available to model for my own work. So there's a couple of me at the top here doing smushy things with my face. More prints, more paintings, more of everything. I really like. There's a little photograph with stitching down the bottom, which I think was really successful. I also just like some of the little pen drawings and stuff that I did. This is an unfinished self-portrait. I think I just got lazy at the end and I was like, it's going to take too much time. But there's one self-portrait on primed canvas and then one on unprimed canvas, so I was trying to look at the different effects of the acrylic on different types of canvas. This is a little artist copy here, and then my own version of my own self-portrait, which I quite like. These are called contact sheets, so it's loads and loads of photos that I took as reference, and I just made them really small and put them all in so that you can see that I actually did experiment with composition and kind of ideas for my photos. I have another concertina fold out at the bottom here of some of my edited favourite photos. Oh my God. This book is so unbelievably heavy. Another contact sheet on this page with more photos, more experiments with line drawing and kind of abstracting it. This is an artist copy, and then my own style of it down the bottom there. There's another Lucian Freud copy in here, two Lucian Freud copies on this page, and another version of the same image of myself pulling my lip, but this time with kind of a more graphic-y line and colours. Again, I seem to really go for the graphic-y style. I think it was me trying to find a way to abstract things more. This is one big self-portrait. And I was really happy with this. I really liked the blending on it because I wasn't sure whether I wanted this big self-portrait that I did to have a graphic line. I photocopied the portrait and then I drew over the top to see whether I liked it. And you can see here I did a similar thing of I used a black cutout over a painting to try and see what that would look like. And we see some more experimentation on this page, some more little photo collages and stitching, which is a very creepy photo of me. And I also really like this quite quiet drawing. It uses colour pencil and white pen and it's on brown paper, which is really sweet. I like that. More experimenting, this time I'm using kind of some oil pastel on black paper. I did a little print that was not so successful, so I kind of cut it out and then added some stitching to try and define some of the lines. So you can always like repurpose things, like if it doesn't go right the first time, just cut it up, rework it into something else, collage it. There was also other stuff that have fallen out of this page. There's some like wax paper. There's kind of like unfinished stuff that I was trying to sew into this kind of like plasticky stuff, which is meant to be a portrait. A illustration inspired by Tamaz, that early artist. This though, this was quite insane that this actually worked. So this is like a type of like board. It's almost wood, I think. It's some sort of like MDF board. I managed to print an etching into it. I broke my etching doing this. I would not like recommend normally doing this. You really would have to soak the wood. I think it really works for this very expressive, angry drawing of honour. I feel like this is an important page to show because as much as it's still just more experiments, I did this massive embroidery that I want everyone to recognise how bloomin' long that this took me. I was working on this for weeks. While I was doing all of the other pages, I would be at home stitching away while my parents were watching TV. And now it just sits in this book and no one ever gets to see it. That is the end of that book. I did a couple of self-portraits on canvas. I did a massive roll. It was huge, it like took up a whole wall, and I did a like slightly smaller one which now is downstairs. And along with all of this, I had to do an essay, which I will not go into too in depth, but for anyone that is taking art A-level and they're wondering about how much writing there is, this was, I think, a max 4,000 word essay. I called it an exploration of the realist tradition in the modern era. That is everything from sketchbook number 2, and now I'm going to go through the third and final sketchbook. Here is number 3, another A4. We could choose for our final project whether we wanted a big sketchbook or a small one, but I just went with A4 because I didn't want the kind of stress of having to fill up a massive sketchbook. But the thing is, there wasn't nearly as much time for this project, so this will be a shorter flip through. You can see that there's a lot of pages at the back. I love this cover, so let's just take a minute to enjoy it. I used masking tape. Did you ever do that as a kid where you would masking tape something, then paint it and then peel back the masking tape? My mum did that with me as a craft thing as a kid, and I thought it would be an awesome kind of abstract way of covering my sketchbook, and I am so in love, and it goes over the spine as well. This project was called Freedom and Limitations, so we were given a brief, again a loose brief, but you could take that in any sort of way you wanted. For this project I was kind of interested in the ideas of surrealism at the beginning, so this is a Magritte painting copy. Also I'm still looking a little bit at portraiture and kind of expression, so I was quite interested in all of this surrealism, so I was looking at surrealist collage. I got some friends to do this drawing for me, which I then collaged. This motif, which you'll see in a couple of pages, was I think inspired by Miro, and I just printed it several times, so I was like, I'm gonna throw it in everywhere. I was also quite interested in magical realism, which is what this little biro drawing is inspired by, and little collage with Cara Delevingne just sitting in the Arctic, so there you go. So I then ended up kind of focusing on movement for this project. So I wanted to look at how the body moved and how that could be abstracted. Down here is a little biro drawing of some dancers. It was a physical theatre performance, and they were actually all hanging off beams, and there was a whole structure, but I removed the structure from my drawing, so it almost looks like they're all holding each other up and they're about to like topple over, which I think is quite interesting. This painting I was never going to finish. It was a copy of John Boschit's Henken Sabbat 1998, and there's also some Henry Moore on here, but you can see in this painting how small the figures were. But again, I was just playing with like the idea of movement, and then it starts to get more abstract as I look at Henry Moore and how he kind of had drawings and sculptures that were really loosely interpretive of the human form. And again, I'm looking at another couple of artist references here. This is a drawing by Peter Hausen, and then I started trying some wire work, which I'd done in my previous sketchbooks, to try and create figures over the top of these kind of expressive backgrounds. I thought that the colours kind of gave a sense of energy and movement in themselves. So here you can see these sort of repeating images that are going to turn up, the two figures, and I actually had two friends at the time who were very kind. They studied dance at college, and so they allowed me to photograph them in some poses. Yeah, so I definitely used that to look at kind of how the body properly performs, and they did a lot of kind of just like standing balances and some jumping movements as well. Here is the contact sheet for that, so you can see I took lots and lots of photos of them. I actually managed to print one of the photographs onto canvas, and then I stitched in these like geometric lines to show the way that the bodies were working together. But I was really starting to get a lot more loose with the way that I was drawing the figures. So here is some more kind of loose drawings. I was inspired definitely by Miro from the kind of surrealists, and I was inspired by Henry Moore. So this is an essay on John Miro here, which I think is hiding a little Miro copy at the bottom down here. I really like this little painting on this page. I feel like the figure really looks like it's about to fall back. It's very simplified, and I did this onto raw canvas, so the texture of it is quite nice. But yeah, still just like experimenting with my line drawings and some collage. I made my own paper, and I was so excited about it, and then I like completely ruined it. We just cover it up with a little collage. This paper one worked a little bit better. It's made my own paper, and then I printed over the top of it. I pretty soon decided on doing collage, so I kind of decided on the pose of the figures I wanted, so this kind of gave me the compositional designs. So I was doing more of them, experimenting, and then what I did is I painted a copy of the previous collage that I did. There's a few more, as you can see here, some larger ones, more collages. I basically used monoprint paper, and I also used some screen printed paper, but you roll ink and you can kind of roll different colours on top of each other. You can draw into it, which creates a sort of textural effect that you can see on some of these collages. This is basically a little demo of what I thought I was going to do. Not the exact composition in the end, but I made a collage here of two figures, very abstracted figures, and then I painted a copy of that. My final piece, I made a collage during my kind of prep time for my exam, and then I painted a version of that collage as a big canvas, which I still have. Unfortunately, the collage was lost by my college. I was very annoyed about that because I wanted it to be a kind of two-piece where you would look and try and kind of see the difference between collage and between painting, and how one is very formulaic and one can be more expressive, but yet they're showing the same image. But we didn't get that, so that's fine. Each of those projects that I showed you, I did either a mock exam or final exam. My final exam was for this sketchbook, 15 hours plus a prep day. So the prep day was when I did my collage, and that took me like 5 hours, and then the painting took me 15 hours. Yeah, it's weird sitting with your thoughts for that amount of time, quite honestly. I hope you have enjoyed this video, that it has given you some kind of insight into how Art A-level works. There is a lot of work that goes into Art A-level. It was kind of insane, but I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I loved my friends, and I loved the kind of atmosphere of the art room. And so I would say, please don't let it put you off doing Art A-level. Just have fun with it. And it's the sort of thing of, if art is your passion, something that you want to do, if you can get through Art A-level, you get to kind of let go of some of the just irritating stuff that you have to do at school just to please them. There's less artist studies, there's less essays, there's more just doing the work that you want to do after A-level. If you are interested in seeing a GCSE sketchbook tour or even an Art Foundation sketchbook tour, definitely let me know. And thank you very much for watching if you got to this stage, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!